We're at the Daytona International Speedway for the opening round of the 2026 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, and it's time for night practice. The lights have come on, and we have another 90 minutes ahead of us. The green light is in 20 seconds time, and all 60 cars are going to head out onto the track. Let's join Bruce Jones and John Hindhaugh at IMSA Radio for coverage of the session as the green light goes on. First down, let's go down and hear from the pits as well with Ryan Marine.
Road circuit in use here, where you can get very close to the action. That kink is one of them. But people forget the back straight because you can get over on this side of Lake Lloyd and look across there. Just been talking, funny enough, about what might happen about a redevelopment of the back straight. We used to have a viewing area over there where people could park their RVs. And quite honestly, we need that room now. We need that room back because there isn't a single RV spot for sale this weekend. If you're not already here, you probably won't get in. With an RV, if you want to come down and park up, there's plenty of general parking and come and experience from the weekend. The midway with all the manufacturers' displays, and my goodness me, the historic cars for HSR that we'll see on Saturday morning and that were out a little bit earlier on. But all of the manufacturers have really, I think, really embraced the idea of bringing their racing history, their endurance racing history, and putting them out there with their new cars, some of which are battery electric, some of which are hybrid, and we've got right next to them some fire-breathing V8 old endurance cars. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, and you just get a chance, you sort of forget the tweaks and the little differences between the cars. I was looking at that fantastic Acura that Gilles de Ferran and Simon Pagenaud had such a amazing season in, and it's two cars along from something else that was a few years earlier, and you just look at the evolution of sports cars. So for me, it's great. Just want to go back onto what Duncan Vincent was talking about, his soul brother in the pit lane. I'll tell you what, talking about the people building these amazing stands to watch from around the circuit, their soul brothers are at the Nürburgring on the Nordschleife for the 24 hours. I think they should mingle. They build proper structures for viewing.
Let's head to Duncan Vincent, who has sidled gently with a big grin on his face down to Ferrari, I think. Duncan, haven't you?
Yes, we've popped into the back of the Risi Competizione. I met the lovely Barbara, and it was like a Le Mans reunion, actually. I've got Davide Rigo on here, so I need to ask. On paper, it looks that you guys had an extremely strong car, extremely strong lineup, and I had you tipped for a pole position, but it didn't materialise. Where was the big lose in qualifying for you guys? Where did the car not work?
Honestly, thanks. Yeah, of course we were a good lineup. My teammates are amazing, and the team is super ready. But since the roar, we know that we have a good balance, but we were not super quick. Honestly, we were surprised of our lap time. We were pretty happy. The problem, the other are quicker. So that's I think we squeezed the best of our car. We put together a good lap time. I got also a good slipstream on my quali. I think we are good on the low speed part and the first part and second sector, but the first sector on the high speed we are missing a bit of speed, especially, and Daytona is so important, the speed, that we cannot do anything. Honestly, to be 4 tenths from the pole, we're actually satisfied. We still need to fix something on the car balance, but now let's see if we can improve a little bit, but will be tough, actually, yeah.
I did see the car in the garage, and it was comprehensively getting a lot of work done. What area were you really focusing on?
Actually, we have some understeer today. We are trying to solve our car balance, try to do everything to have a constant car during the day and during the night. Mainly I had some understeer. We are trying to fix it, but that's it. The rest, the car is all good at the moment.
So how important is this night session for the 62 car now?
It's super important, of course, because when we need all the time and mileage on the car. Now we're getting close to the race, so now is the most important part. To be quick in the night is very important.
Davide, thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you very much. Pleasure, as always, to pop into Risi Competizione.
So that's a good way to kick off our interviews, as we do have cars on the circuit. We start with 90 minutes on the clock. We've just come under 88 minutes. I expect, Bruce Jones, to see quite a lot of cars. If not all, in fact, no, I expect to see all the cars going out for at least some of the track time tonight, because, as I say, you're talking 13 hours, 21 minutes of darkness. It might be here with the run to 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 1:40 in the afternoon. It might be a little bit too much to say the race will be won and lost in darkness. You do say that at Sebring because it is the end of the race. But I tell you what, you can have some big moves in those 13 and a bit hours of darkness. And if your car's not working there, you can lose out a lot too.
Yeah, no, massive. I think you want to use every single lap you can probably get in dark conditions, because you do plenty of running without. And bear in mind, there are a lot of new faces this year. And just getting used to other people's lights at various points around the circuit, it's not something that happens in an instant. So it's got to be a clear program they're working with the car, but it's also with the novice drivers, not novice in terms of their racing, but novice in terms of racing on the banking in the dark. They need to get out and absolutely appraise, because as we know here, you think you leave a little bit of space, the faster cars should go on the upper side, but you could just be slightly too far towards the middle, and that is a compromise. So a lot to be learnt in the dark.
So into this evening session, and the first time for me seeing the Ferris wheel lit up this year as well. It wasn't even here on Tuesday when I got in. What did you make of qualifying, Bruce? 4 15-minute sessions, no real time to make any, well, you're not allowed to make any changes other than a quick tyre stop. I actually like that format. I think we rattled through it pretty well. It has no real bearing on what we'll see on Saturday and Sunday, but entertainment-wise and seeing potential performance of the cars, it does at least maybe answer some questions.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I walked around various points of the circuit to take a look at different corners and stuff, but effectively, with a 60-car field, let's pretend we had 15 in each of the sessions, give or take. Some had 13, some had 17. It was a chance to compare like for like, really, and just listen to the cars, look at the cars, and I think I've taken away the most from today is in GT3 form. I mean, the Mercedes always has a fantastic rumble, the Ford is mighty, but the Lamborghini brings something different in terms of an oral treat. And it was so interesting sitting in the stands listening to, really die-hard sports car fans just discussing with great passion the mighty new tyre you may not get if you follow, let's say, single-seater racing. So I always get fired up when you hear people who deeply love all that they see. But I thought it was a really interesting show, and standing at corners where you're seeing how late people will brake, like into turn 5, that's always quite informative for me as well. But just knowing when someone's really, really pushing, as you say, John, you've got a set of tyres, you've only got 15 minutes, but almost all the drivers had track space, and so no one could really, if they ended up being tripped up by another car, it was probably partially their fault. So we can put that excuse into the bucket and just concentrate on what was out there. It was good, John.
WRT, the Vincent Voss team, into IMSA racing for the first time and running the 2 BMW prototypes. Haven't had a great start. Well, I say I haven't had a great start. They were a second or so, a little bit more than a second or so off the qualifying times. Peter Snowden has gone down there. Snowy, any obvious reason as to why those cars were a wee bit off the pace? Is there any furrowed brows and wringing of hands down there from the Belgian team?
Well, 2 separate questions there, John. I will find out about the pace for you, and I'll go back in there and find out. But I just watched the pit stop there, and we were discussing a few minutes ago about night practice, and I would say there's a ratio between how important it is to the drivers and how much more important it is to the teams and operating at night and that kind of stuff, even though it is well floodlit here. The number 25 WRT BMW has just come in and had a routine tyre change, and the front left, the air gun didn't work. There wasn't so much furrowed brows, but shaking of heads and some different language, shall we say, in the change of the colour of the air. But those are the kind of things that you need to get out of the way now in night practice. But in a race, that could cost valuable seconds. We always say, don't we? Stay out of trouble and stay out of the pits. But, just straight away there, an issue with a front left wheel that they just couldn't even get off because of the air gun. I will find out about the pace for you, though, if I don't lose my job doing it.
Okay, no, that's absolutely fine. I can just ask, was everything all right in qualifying? Let's bounce back down to Duncan. I simply wanted to talk to a lot of people. Sandy Mitchell is with him now.
Yes, Sandy Mitchell stands with me, the man who is in the Pfaff Motorsport number 9, qualified P11. Sandy, I was watching out the back with a few of the guys. I mean, are you just excited about the weekend, but also the eyes must be a little bit further past the Rolex? One eye on it, one eye off it, because there's a new car on the horizon.
Yeah, it's always special, you know, starting the season here. It's such a fantastic way to start the season for everyone. And a little bit of a tricky qualifying session, just didn't seem to quite have the one lap pace. So yes, from what we've seen, our long run pace looks a little bit better, so we're kind of still, you know, looking positive going into the race, and 24 hours, a lot to play out. So yeah, we'll see. And exciting season, first time for me doing a full season over here in the States and debuting the Temerario at the next round at Sebring. So it's a lot new for me, and some new challenges which I'm right up for.
Eyes on the prize here. The Pfaff car looks fabulous. It looks fabulous, and I think they call it plaid. It's almost tartan, so we do like that. But what's the run plan for you guys this evening?
Yeah, so I'm not driving this evening, but we've got Mirko and Hinchcliffe going out there doing a few laps on the older tyres to get a bit of a balance read. So I wouldn't expect us to see us at the top of the timesheets with the older tyres, but we'll be learning plenty and getting ready for the race on Saturday.
Listen, the very best of luck, thank you. The last time we'll see the number 9 Pfaff Huracan, and after this, they get the new car for the Sebring.
We had a quick off for the BMW at turn 1, BMW number 24 with Sheldon von der Linde. We've had the Intersport 37 off at turn 5, and continuing, that's the International Horseshoe. But other than that, everybody is running. Not had PJ Hyatt's car out, the number 99, Spike the Golden Dragon. That one hasn't been out. Is it on the pit lane? Difficult to see. So that might be one for Snowy and Duncan to find out. Bruce?
Can I just touch on Team WRT, obviously now running the BMWs this year in the GTP class. I've watched them over decades since Vincent Voss and Yves Wirtz founded the team, and the one thing, to have a mistake in a pit stop from them, just hearing about an air gun not working, that is almost unheard of. They are kings of the pit stop. Yes, this is a different stage, but that team has a really serious brains trust. You go back to Pierre Dieudonné, who guided Mazda to victory at Le Mans back in 1991, and pit stops a speciality, so just look out. They will keep sharpening that up. I have full faith.
Right, I asked Snowy if the guys at WRT would tell him about the qualifying pace or lack thereof. Snowy asked the question. What came the answer?
Well, I took your advice, John, which is always a poison chalice or a bit of jeopardy. I went into the pit and asked, and apparently it's an IT issue, and they're not comfortable with the software on the car, that it's being erratic, inconsistent, and whatever. And therefore they don't want to push the car to limit. So I've never quite heard that one before, but that was the official response, and I thought I'd got enough. I better leave while I'm intact, because there's a whole race to go yet.
I think it's fair game these days. Blame the IT department.
Outstanding work, Snowy. Thank you very much indeed. I've just had a word from our IT help desk up in London. Tim Gray says, Snowy, tell them to try switching it off and on again after 10 seconds. Make sure it's been completely unplugged. Okay, that might work for them. It's a hybrid issue that they were talking about earlier on. It was, who were we talking to? Kevin Magnussen, wasn't it, that we were talking to? And he said it was a hybrid issue. I mean, underlining what I keep reminding people, these cars are ridiculously complex nowadays. Out on the circuit for the first time in the darkness at Daytona, the Heart of Racing Valkyrie. Merely 6+ litres of V12 glory. That is actually pushing Bruce and I right back into our glory years at Le Mans. The noise of it, the look of it. It's definitely an Aston Martin from the front, but I do see 70s prototypes in that car, with the overhangs in particular at the front. You can squint and see probably a couple of other manufacturers in there, but I'm not going to mention because it is undoubtedly an Aston Martin. But you know, the proportions of this car are quite different from anything else in LMH or GTP. Try now, Bruce.
Okay, I think that's okay.
Hang on, I've bringed it now as well.
Yeah, we'll pop that back on, but at least it's working. But no, it's the proportions. The first time I saw a Valkyrie in the flesh, I couldn't believe how low it was. And you go, oh, okay. And then you see it with all the racing addenda, and it really is something very, very special indeed.
Bruce goes to work fixing his box at the moment. Now, the other half of racing car. This is the pole-sitting car in GTD at the Western Horseshoe. Didi Barrichello in that, and I can see a wheel. It must be a right-hand wheel because I can see the two left-hand wheels.
Red flag.
The red flag is out. There is a Michelin tyre and racing wheel that has come asunder. Now, would that car just come out of the pit lane?
Car 27, yes, just come out of the pit lane.
Now, at this point of the week, of course, we've had our qualifying. Any session normal, oh my goodness, that was it's a right-hand rear wheel, a very big lose going through the kink, the dog leg, and the wheel stopped, thank goodness, from making its bid for freedom. Huge amount of inertia, and stayed on the ground. That is right next to the RVs down there, but the car backwards very, very early on, just missed the tyre barrier before turn 5.
And stopped about a foot short of the tyre ball when it crossed the track again, following the wheel, nose off the ground as it went over the curbing, back across the track, and then somehow Dudu did just enough on braking on 3 wheels really there.
And the wheel actually was very close to another one of our pole sitters, I think, as it went through in the darkness. Didi Barrichello out of the Heart of Racing Aston Martin GTD car. And now, they were going to get a drive-through for not being centred in the pit box. I mean, that's as of nothing right now, as their teammates in the 23 Valkyrie come into the pit lane.
I just wonder at what point that right rear wheel came off the car, because he was already going backwards as he came out of that kink on the infield straight.
I think it's going into the kink when you're leaning. You'd be leaning on that right rear, wouldn't you? And if it's wobbled and gone off, it's wow, swapper. And that is flat through there in a GT3 car, even in the early running. And that car was moving very quickly. He was doing his level best to get it slowed down. But with only 3 Michelins on the car, it was a somewhat unequal struggle. The AMR safety team down there already, thank goodness. The clock will not stop. And I'm being told that he will not lose that pole-sitting lap. Normally you lose your best lap in qualifying for causing a red in practice in qualifying. It's 2. But of course, we're a little bit different this weekend because we've had qualifying. Normally qualifying is the last thing we have before perhaps a warm-up in 1 or 2 of the races, although that's not much of a thing nowadays. So let's see if we can work out when this came loose. Yeah, he's absolute. How did he miss the infield barriers as well?
I think through the power of prayer, John. That's the only reason I could think. Physics didn't seem to cover it. But
that is the Interpol pole-sitting LMP2 car that was coming upon the scene. That looked like the Acura number 93 that the wheel just missed, and somehow, despite it being downhill from the exit of turn 5 to the grass, the wheel has stayed on the ground. If that had bounced, That was incredible. That was the wheel's doing 20 mile an hour quicker than the car at that point, because obviously it's not being slowed down. It hits the tyre barrier, goes up 20 feet, 30 feet, but comes down on the racetrack side.
If its previous bounce had been even 6 foot closer to where the tyre could come off, I think that would have really been an issue. But because it was actually so close to the foot of the tyre wall, it hit that, as you say, went straight up. But, unfortunate for the Heart of Racing team, but very fortunate indeed for, I would say, not only Dudu Barrichello, but for, when we hate to see a wheel running loose. But that was a real case of a driver being a complete passenger. Quite how he missed everything on the run from the kink, where he was flipped around going backwards. How he missed that tyre wall, I do not know. How he missed his rivals as they were trying to negotiate turn 5 with him taking a very unusual backwards line across the grass. Anyhow, all stars were aligned just then, and it doesn't appear to be any bodywork damage or anything to the Aston Martin, because simply it didn't hit anything at all.
Probably a bit of under-trade damage. Maybe the right disc will be replaced. They'll have a good look at it. Hello to Stu Elkins. Good to know that you're tuning. He says, damn, Tim Gray's just given away my biggest trade secret that I've learned in 30 years working in IT. I thought it would be AI that would steal our jobs. Turns out it's a radio show producer. Switch it off, leave it for 10 minutes, turn it back on again. Thank you, Stu.
It's all right. People listening to us are all good-hearted people. They won't trouble you with that one.
So we'll grab some more interviews in just a moment. As I said, the clock won't stop. 1 hour, 11 minutes and 37, 36, 35 to go. I'll give you a rundown of the times, such as they are. Most people have done 5, 6, 7, 8 laps. Earl Bamber with the fastest time for Whelen Cadillac at the moment at 1:35.9. And Julian Andlau for Porsche Penske Motorsport in the 963 in second. That's the number 7 car. Just half a tenth further back, 0.056 of a second. Then Sheldon von der Linde for BMW M-Team WRT. Maybe they did switch it on and off again, because that number 24, which we saw taking a rather wide line at turn 1 early doors in that session, now up to 4th position and just 3/4 of a second back. Then it's Jordan Taylor for Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac number 40. Lawrence Vantor for the number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsport 963. Then the 2 Acuras 93 from 60. And the top 10 made up by Roman De Angelis for the Valkyrie from Aston Martin Heart of Racing. And then JDC and Wayne Taylor Racing in 10th position with Ricky Taylor. Peter Snowden was fastest, finger first, for an update from Heart of Racing. Then we'll have 30 Habsburg with Duncan. Snowy first, what do you got from our friends at Heart of Racing?
I think we can officially call it an interim update, if you like, John. I popped into Heart of Racing Garage, and they're obviously slightly confused. They've seen the video, and there's a few intakes of breaths and etc. But the official line at the moment is we don't know exactly what's happened, obviously apart from the fact the wheel has departed the car. We can all see that. But the car's gone back to the garage. But very, very helpfully, the communications lady from Heart of Racing, Hayley Jordan, has gone off and to find out what's going on, and she's going to text me the answer very, very shortly. So I'm at the moment standing in the pit lane looking at the back of a Valkyrie, and it's gorgeous, but I need to hand over to Duncan, don't I?
Okay, Ferdinand Habsburg does join us here in the middle of the tent, where it's nice and calm, and I walked in and you're dancing. Can you explain why you were dancing, please?
Do you ever catch me not dancing when I'm outside of the car?
Well, I've caught you doing a few things, but tell me how the number 18 car is going. A busy qualifying session, but we saw you guys coming away in the number 18 car in 7th place for Kyle Telley in the JBMotorsports car.
Well, if you've been following us, you can catch the most beautiful car on the track. We've got the beautiful purple and white asymmetric design. We've got to love it. We've got to support it. We're here to win the race. We're here to have a good time, and we're trying to do it on track and inside the pit lane.
You were quite a late addition to the team, but by the looks of things in here, you're the party man. You're making it all happy, making everybody sing.
No, Logan's the party man. You should see him. He just gets shy when you're around.
Is this true, Logan? If we can just quickly step in, are you really the party man?
No, we got Mr. Positive here in the team, which is good. But no, Ferdy's the party man.
What's it like being involved in the Rolex 24? You're such a great driver. Great to see you here. What's your thoughts ahead of the whole event?
Well, thank you, first of all. But no, I'm excited. It's a race I've dreamt of doing since I was a young kid. I've watched it every year for many, many years. So I'm excited to be here. It's going to be a long race, and hopefully go get a good result.
For all the tracks that you have raced on, just how technical do you think the actual layout that we have here for the Rolex is?
It's actually much more technical than it looks. I mean, you're constantly battling the car on low downforce, low grip track, and it's difficult to put it all together. But nonetheless, it's fun. It's rewarding when you do. So it's been a joy.
Thank you very much for your time. A double whammy there, Logan Sargent and Ferdinand Habsburg for the JBMotorsports team.
Logan Sargent with big things ahead of him in the Ford program. Of course, Ford with a hypercar program in the World Endurance Championship with Mike Rockefeller, Seb Prio and Logan Sargent. Great opportunity for Logan, Ryan Marine.
Certainly so, and for him as well to be able to race in a home race. He's a Floridian, hasn't done much racing in his home state in quite a long time, but special opportunity and seemingly the start of big things to come. We've let John Hindhaugh run off to some other obligations tonight. Bruce Jones still joining us here in the booth. I'm Ryan Marine. Peter Mackay alongside as well. Just over an hour to go in this much anticipated night practice session here at Daytona. Fully under the lights, Bruce.
It's just fantastic. It's beautiful. But as John was saying at the top of the night practice show, it's vital. We're going to have half the race effectively under cover of darkness. And Ryan, you and I have been talking while we've been having supper early. We've got quite a lot of real novices, not just for this level of racing, but also racing in the dark and on the banking. So I think you've got to put your less experienced people out on the track as much as you possibly can in this session. So we had the red flag. Wasn't a long red flag period, but of course the clock kept on running. So for quite a few of the teams, they probably lost about 5 laps there that they could have had.
So with an hour and 6 minutes to go, there's a lot of valuable track time here, because I recall last year in the Rolex 24, the night practice, we had a little bit of drizzle, which wasn't then forecast for the race, so the teams didn't really use much of the track time because it was not really going to give them the data they needed on that particular weekend. So this is it's not a surprise to see the track incredibly busy right now. It's actually only 5 or 6 cars actually sitting in the pit lane. In fact, make that less than that, there's 4 cars sitting in the pit lane with a few more coming in now. So huge number of cars out on track, which I guess as well, Bruce, is really important because you're getting used. There's a lot of drivers here doing this for the first time, this race for the first time. Some are actually in their first multi-class sports car race.
It's quite
getting used to how the
it?
traffic works is important.
Yeah, and how much light you're going to pick up around the banking and riding around, and then when you've got 2 or 3 other cars around you, is their lighting helping you or hindering you? The really bright lights, they come up, they can slightly discombobulate a driver and make them a little bit lost as to how close they are to the top of the banking, or more to the point, if they're trying to stay on the inside line, just where they're sitting. It's all about experience, Ryan.
One of those drivers that I talked to that has a very limited amount of sports car racing experience is Max Esterson, who was so impressive at Motul Petit Le Mans, but he did that in the top class. He was driving for JDC in their GTP, and I asked him, how different is it now that you're being passed all the time instead of passing all the time? And he had this little intake of breath, his eyes got wide, and said, yeah, it's an adjustment. And that's what he's trying to learn on the fly, along with 2 of his co-drivers that have never started a sports car race before.
It seems unreal to have that level of inexperience in a car, but they have to just suck up as much information they can get from everyone around. Most of the teams here have been coming here for a good decade, some 2-3 decades. So, that's the point with young drivers. Listen. We know you've got the speed because you showed that in your single-seaters and coming across, but still that first moment. And in multi-class racing, of course, the hardest thing to be is in the junior class. But you just have to stick to your line. Stay low if you can. But think of drivers having their first experience of the Nürburgring 24 hours. 172 turns, 25 kilometres, 16 miles around the circuit. And if you're in a car that's 30, 40 miles an hour slower down the straights than your rivals, you just got to stay where you are. Don't try and adjust to them. But it can be, for some drivers, just too much of a hideous experience, just too much happening.
The Vassar-Sullivan team now synonymous with Lexus. Let's hear from the team boss. Jimmy Vassar is available to speak with Duncan Vincent.
Yeah, let's catch up with an absolute legend of the American motor racing scene, Jimmy Vasser. Fabulous to see here at Daytona. Give us a little bit of an overview of how the team are performing to this point in the event, Jimmy.
The team's doing great. We've been doing this so long, and it's like clockwork. We got the cars prepared. We've had these cars. This is our 8th year with the RCF, and we got a new car coming next year. We're really excited about that, but we're also excited for the last year with the Lexus, and all hands on deck. Things are going real smooth here. Trying to squeeze a little bit of speed out of it on the straightaways, but I think if we just do all blocking and tackling, doing everything right, that's all we can do. We're just trying to control the things that we can control.
If you trim it out on the straightaways, does that make it that a little bit difficult to drive through the infield here?
That's always the case, but it's kind of what we got. We're going to be lacking, we think, some straight line speed, but we'll see what we got if we can make it through the night and see where we are.
Jimmy, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
1996 kart champion, an excellent driver in his own right, and has turned into a very good team boss, involved for several years in IndyCar racing, won races with Sebastian Bourdais as one of his drivers, and now IMSA is really where you associate the name Jimmy Vasser, and it's largely due to this car, the RCF GT3, the oldest car in the field, but you can't count it out, can you?
You can't. I tell you what, it does sound magnificent. It really growls. When you were out on the banking, I was on in the bleachers on the infield, it's just got a really, tearing of material sort of sound. It's harsh, it's hard, but I love it. But of course, next year, that ain't going to be racing here anymore, but we're going to have the GR GT3, the Gazoo Racing. I saw that for the first time going up the hill at the Goodwood Festival of Speed last year, and they were being very coy, the whole Toyota group, about, is it going to be for road cars or race cars? They had one in each lot of trim. But the silhouette, it looks super mean. So combine that with that engine sound of the current Lexus RCF, I think it's going to be quite popular.
And I understand it is a V8 that's in the new one too, so that same sound is going to still echo around the bankings. And I think when you think of a car that is as long in the tooth as that beloved Lexus is, 8th season, as Jimmy just mentioned there, the team, there's even more emphasis on the team delivering, because you're having to maximise every element of your package, whereas a lot of the teams who are running either the newly evolved Ferrari or the newly evolved Porsche or whatever, they've still got lots of performance to find, whereas Vasser Sullivan, they kind of probably know every trick in the book of that car, so they've then got to make sure that they are right on the very edge of the optimum performance, because if they're anything under that, they will get walked over by the new cars.
The cars are a little bit down in their respective class orders. Let's get more on the Vasser Sullivan story from the pits now.
Yeah, I was just with the Vasser Sullivan Lexus. It's going out the number 14 1-4 car. That's just going out. What you can hear right behind me then. Again, look at these little chinks in the armour and the jeopardy you might encounter during the race, just in this night practice then. They've just done a brake rotor change on the front of that number 14 Lexus. And that was all very simple and routine, you'd have thought, until they couldn't get the front right wheel on again. And it just wouldn't go into the wheelman from the left-hand side, had to come over from the left-hand side over to the right-hand side with his air gun. It's all these simple little things that just can all add up and make such a big difference.
Appreciate that. You have to think that for these teams, this is also a chance to go through that process, do a brake change in the line of fire, in a live pit lane. You can practice in the garage all you like, but there's nothing quite like doing it when the lights are on and the pressure at least is starting to mount. Not quite the same as race conditions, but not far off.
But look at this session. It's 90 minutes. We lost a handful of minutes with the red flag. It's going to go by in a flash for these teams. And so it's about keeping things on the straight and narrow. We've just had number 70 having a little off-track exertion at turn 6, just as the track goes out of the infield section and turns up onto the banking. But number 70 continued on its way, and just double checking to see who was at the wheel at the time.
Brendan Uribe.
Brendan Uribe. It was, yes. It's the yellow and black Ferrari run by Optimum Motorsport for Inception Racing, but no damage done. But again, that's probably a tiny little mistake, just positioning the car in the dark. There might have been other headlights at turn 6 and maybe a little power too soon, and then round comes the tail.
Earlier in the session, we had Peter Snowden tracking down some stories for us in the WRT pit. Snowy, what have you learned?
Well, just as soon as I'd done the Vassar-Sullivan update, right next to them, and literally in the next pit, I had to stand kissed right against the wall with the Team WRT BMW. That was the car they were talking about with the technical issues earlier. Well, that's back in again now with its front and rear clips off, and the technicians are working on each end furiously. It looks to me it's nothing to do with it's actually front anti-roll bar changing on the front end of it here. I'm not sure what they're doing at the back. So I think the Vassar-Sullivan car is about to come back in as well, because the mechanics are preparing for that. And that's the car that just had the brake rotor change and will have done one lap, which I think is all it's done. And indeed it is right behind now, and right into the space of where the WRT mechanics need to put the rear wing back on the BMW. So it's a tight pit lane, is it not?
It absolutely is, Snowy, but I think they're probably quite pleased to be just adjusting a roll bar when they've had other problems, the sort of invisible ones, the problems with, electronics and other elements. They're always the worst, but something physical, yeah, we can do that.
The point he makes about the crowded pit lane, though, is a good one. Hard to imagine we were supposed to have one additional car, but the Team Tonus LMP2 car couldn't answer the bell. That said, there was a recent competition meeting where IMSA race director Bo Barfield talked to some of the broadcast media, talking through a few of the points of interest for this weekend, and I was on that call. And Bo said there are some specific rules that they're looking for in the pit lane here because of how tight it is. Number one, you can put the car on skates to reposition the car in the pit lane. Number two, they expect you, when you come into the pits, if you have an open spot ahead of you, to pull into it and then back up so you're not obstructing the car behind. And there will be, and frankly already have been, throughout the course of some of these practice sessions, some penalties handed out due to positioning of the car in the pits.
Yeah, and one thing that always strikes me here, if this is the first time you're looking at action, listening to the action at Daytona International Speedway, it's different at Le Mans, because if your car's got a problem and you parked in front of the garage, you spin it round, it goes into the garage. That frees up space in the pit lane. But here your choice, if it's got a big mechanical problem, it has to go back into the paddock, and that isn't the work of a moment, and it does obstruct things in the pit lane.
An update on what happened to the number 70 Inception Ferrari. I was on the inside going into turn 6. This is the turn that goes back up onto the speedway banking, and the 23 Aston Martin Valkyrie was on the outside, and they just converged at the kind of apex point of the corner. Both cars did continue, particularly the Valkyrie almost had this little nudge and carried on, whereas the number 70 Inception Ferrari had a bit of a spin, as you can hear the Michelin screeching in the background there. So one of these tricky things that can happen in traffic, but you could ask the driver of the prototype and say, oh well, yeah, he's taken my corner away, and the GT driver would say, well, where do you expect me to go? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle of the two.
Alex Riberas has taken the Valkyrie into the pit lane, and so for the Heart of Racing team, it's been a tough session. This car, the Valkyrie in the pits, the 27, was involved in an incident earlier, and we can get more on that with Duncan now.
Yeah, just catching up with Dudu Barrichello here, unfortunately out of the car. You've still got some laps to do to qualify for night racing, so great work by the Heart of Racing team here to get this car back on track so you can qualify for it.
Yeah, awesome. It's a bit scary really, the wheel fell off, and I just went backwards almost into the wall. We're super lucky actually that we didn't hit the wall, but I was really, really scared. Not for myself, but for the car, I think everybody's done such a good job, and Zach's put it on pole today, and I was so worried that the car was going to get destroyed, and fortunately he didn't. So boys and girls here from the team are doing such a good job, and hopefully I can go back to the track and just do my mandatory laps so I can race.
What was the debrief like after qualifying? The team must have been on a real high after that real good session in qualifying for the pole in GTD.
Yeah, 100%. I think everybody from the team has done such a great job. It's my first weekend with the team as well, so I've been loving it so far. And but this is only a little setback. I think we've been having such a great 2 weeks here with the Roar and this week, and I'm just super fortunate to be here, and I'm super privileged to have the opportunity to be with these guys.
Thank you very much. If this is the only problem in a 24-hour event, this is a drop in the ocean. Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to hear from Eduardo Barrichello there. I think we'll have an update momentarily on Team WRT once again. Snowy on site. Just get in my ear, let me know when you're ready with that update. But first time I encountered Eduardo Barrichello, it was 2012. His father was starting in the Indy 500, his only start. And I was a young intern with the IndyCar Radio Network, standing on the grid pre-race, and just watching Rubens Barrichello getting ready to take that start. And his young son picked something up off the track, as a little kid would do, and he stuck it in his mouth. And in that moment, and before the biggest race of his career, at least in some time for Rubens, he had to be in dad mode once again, correcting his son. And then it dawned on me at Le Mans last year that kid was in the race, and I was now covering his kid. And it was one of those the world comes at you fast kind of moments.
It really does. I remember when Rubens arrived in Europe as a teenager racing in Formula Opel Lotus. And I wasn't covering it then, I was doing something a bit further up the tree. But one of my colleagues was and said, there is this amazing guy. He's charming, he's funny, and he's very quick. He was racing for an Italian team. Then the next year he came up to race in the British Formula 3 Championship, and he was an instant hit, and I've been a massive fan. He is the most human racing driver you will ever find. And I remember being here in 2019, my only time working the pits, and I started talking to Rubens about his racing career back in Brazil, and he's just still like a teenager, just chock full of enthusiasm. Wonderful.
One of my favourite clips of racing in general is the clip of when Dudu was starting to do Brazilian stock cars, and they have a two-seater car, and he took his dad. Have you seen this clip, Ryan?
No.
And Dudu's in the car driving, and his dad's in the passenger seat, and he's pulling through the gears, and as soon as they start to accelerate away out of the pits, Rubens just bursts into tears with pride. He's in completely floods of tears because he's just, like any father would be in that scenario.
You could imagine certainly what the emotions would be like. Tough qualifying session for WRT, as we talked about, but a stronger night practice with their cars in 4th and 5th respectively. Let's go down to Snowy once more for an update on the Belgian team.
Yeah, it was the number 25 car that came in originally and had that torsion bar changing. Sorry, number 24, my apologies. The number 25 came in at the same time, as you were saying, Ryan, about them stacking. They had to do that, move one car out of the way to get the other one in, then the other one out. There was nothing appeared to happen to the 25 car for quite a while, apart from tyre pressures. And then suddenly there's a flurry of activity now once the 24 has gone out on track, and the same data or information is being applied to this 25 car, and they're doing the torsion bars and suspension on this as well. So there's obviously something, I think it's a bit more than IT. There's something fundamentally they're not happy with on this car. Now, on that note, on the pit box right behind me while I'm here, the Vassar Sullivan Lexus, the number 14 car, that has come back in and being stationed behind me now. That's the car that had the brake rotor change a lap or so ago, and that has come in, has been on its jacks with the driver in it still, untouched for, I would say, nearly 5 minutes now.
Curious situation there. If you happen to learn more, we'd love to get the update. Now under 50 minutes to go in this night practice session. Chance to run through the top 5 in each of the classes. In GTP, it is Fred Vesti aboard the quickest car. Cadillac Whelan, the entrant, car number 31. Quickest in the GTP class, a 1:35.914. Less than a tenth of a second behind is the number 7 from Porsche Penske Motorsport, with the Frenchman Julien Andlauer currently behind the wheel. Then in third, Cadillac Wayne Taylor Racing's car 40 with Jordan Taylor at a 1:36.675. Sheldon Vanderlinde for BMW Team WRT is 4th in car 24, and the sister car with Philip Ang driving is in 5th place. The top 5 covered by less than 1 second as we approach the halfway mark of the session. In LMP2, it's AF Corsa USA that's come to the fore. Ferrari factory driver Nicholas Nielsen is in that car, only driver in the sub 140 bracket at a 1:39.806. Another factory driver from the World Endurance Championship, Charles Malaysi, currently 2nd for TDS. They have a best lap at a 1:40.024. United Autosports car 22 with Greg Marsucci in the car at the moment. Checks in with the 3rd fastest time. Toby Sowery and Bijoy Garg for CrowdStrike by APR and Inter-Europol, respectively. We'll run through the top 5 in the 2 GT classes in just a moment, but first another trip down to the pit lane.
Yeah, just as I was walking out of the pit lane from the WRT information I was giving on the damper, torsion bar, suspension, whatever, let's bundle it all into their change there. The number 77 at AO Porsche is having exactly the same there. They've got complete suspension uprights or dampers, completely changed now. They're changing both of those on the front of the car. I need to get out of the way to let that Ferrari come in. The number 62 right behind. Not step on the Porsche wing in the process. Couldn't afford it on my salary. But so there's obviously something going on with BMW and Porsche here, having to do damper setup changes, which is I wouldn't have expected at this point in night practice, but what do I know?
Appreciate the updates. Back to the rundown. Let's get to GTD Pro first. It's Antonio Garcia, who is quickest in class. Then Tommy Milner in the sister Corvette is second. James Collado third for Triarci. Manthai with the 4th fastest time with their Porsche. And the 5th fastest time at GTD Pro is Get Speed. We'll get to GTD in just a moment. But now to Duncan with the chance to catch up with a NASCAR superstar who's making his GTP debut here in the Rolex 24.
I mean, if we're at Daytona, we need to speak to a man who comes from the NASCAR scene. We've got a rising superstar, Connor Zilic. The car, the 31 Whelen Cadillac's on pole position. That must have been a great feeling for you guys sitting in the pit box, watching the car go to pole.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually on an airplane coming down here when we qualified on the pole. It was pretty hilarious. I've never qualified on the pole from an airplane before, so that was a first. But really glad to be back down here with the Whelen Cadillac team. It's been a ton of fun. Getting my season started off here in the 24 hour. It's my first time racing for an overall win, and no better team to do it with than Action Express.
I mean, I don't think that's ever been done before, somebody getting pole while on a plane, so that's something else for the CV. But how do you approach this 24-hour race into the GTP class? We know you've done it in P2, but what do you do that's different?
Yeah, it's, at the end of the day, it's just another race. The traffic is a little bit different, and, the GTP class is very, very competitive. So I'm excited for the challenge. It's going to be a lot of fun to go out there and figure it out and race against a bunch of the best in the world.
Are you getting in the car tonight?
Yeah, I'll be in the car in a few minutes.
Thank you very much, Connor. On you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Already a class winner of this event. That was back in 2024 when he won in LMP2. Backed that up with a class win in the 12 Hours of Sebring a couple of months later. And last year, what a season he had in what was then known as the NASCAR Xfinity Series, now the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Bit of a mouthful, and I have to get used to saying that. 9 wins, 12 times in the top 3, 8 poles, and still did not win the championship, partially due to quirks of the old NASCAR points formula. But one of the dominant seasons in second-tier NASCAR racing in quite some time. An incredible talent. Anything you put him in, he just goes fast.
He's 19 years old, and you almost think he's got so much experience for that kind of tender age. He impressed me when he won the Rolex 24, as you mentioned, in the LMP2, but I think he impressed me even more last year in the Trackhouse by TF Sport Corvette, where he was entrusted to take that. Bear in mind he was in a team with Shane Van Gisbergen, Scott McLaughlin, etc. He was trusted to take the car to the finish, and he was right there in the fight with the factory Pratt & Miller Corvettes, and was right. And when you look back at the data, you look back at the sector times, he was actually the quickest Corvette driver in the race last year. So he's the real deal.
I was in that Trackhouse by TF pit late in the race last year, and I have a picture on my phone of Scott McLaughlin and Shane Van Gisbergen sitting next to each other on the pit box, which that's pretty remarkable to start with when you think about the rivalry that they had for some time. But they were pointing at the timing screen in this picture, pointing to exactly what you point out, Peter. They were suitably impressed by the young man, and that is incredibly high praise.
It just sounds like one of those wonderful shots you only get because you happen to be there in the nanosecond it happened.
Total serendipity.
If you had a camera in every pit area, you'd pick up vignette, but that sounds like you just absolutely picked out that moment. Inadvertently, but you just grabbed them.
Right place, right time. Right now, Rexy is in the pit lane, and a little bit of work going on at the front of the car. Front fascia is off of that car. and will need to be reattached before they send it back out. This is more than standard maintenance, I think it's safe to say, and more work is being done under the front compartment. Meanwhile, out on track just a few moments ago, we had one of the Inter-Europol entries, car 343, currently 12th fastest at LMP2, go deep in turn 1. That was after making a pass of the Triarsi Competizione Ferrari 023. That car went wide, but that's a safe spot to land in if you don't feel like you could make the corner, and he's able to return to the track. Really no harm, no foul.
Yeah, it's practice. It's not the race. In the race, you'd have tried a little bit harder to stay on, but yeah, the car inside you isn't braking quite as soon as you thought it was, and your options are dwindling and running away. I must say, Peter, it's a magical place to be up here. The darkness, it's a soft darkness in Florida. But let's go down, because it sounds so sorry, interrupt you for another Scott. Let's go down to Duncan Vincent.
It was getting busy down here, tell you that. There's a lot of people spectating, but I have managed to prize somebody out from the garage. It's AJ Allmendinger. It's fabulous to see you here. I think you drew the short straw, though, because you see you haven't been in the car yet.
Yeah, Dixon and Colin are up there. They're just hanging out. Like, they told me it was time for me to come do this interview. I was like, what do I have to talk about? I just got here today, too. Like, I had to go do NASCAR media all week, so it's all right. I'll take it. It's hopefully I'm getting in the car soon, so I would have more to talk about here in about 45 minutes.
Were you the same as Connor Zilic, basically arriving on the plane when qualifying was taking place then?
Yeah, that is correct. I know the team was heartbroken because I was supposed to qualify the car, so we let Tom do it instead. But no, overall, I told Shank this is a good problem to have, because the last time I missed qualifying, we won the race in 2012. So hopefully it's the same deal.
You're the lucky charm, that's for sure, AJ.
That's the first time I've ever been told that. So I've been called a lot of names, not lucky charm, but no, it's been a lot of fun. I just so happy to be back here with Meyer Shank Racing and trying to learn this GTP car. It is insane how many controls, but the team's been amazing trying to get me up to speed, and hopefully I just do my job and don't F it up, and I can make something good happen to give it to the really good guys.
You can tell Dixie that I'll come back and see him later, because Dario Franchitti said he would speak to me. So let me down there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's big timing right now. That's what happens when you're 6th time, I guess. You can do whatever you want.
AJ, thanks. Enjoy the drive.
Thank you.
Just some of the star power in this year's race. Great to hear from the 2003 Formula Atlantic champion, AJ Allmendinger, who went on to have a race-winning career in Champ Car before making the transition to stock cars, but never stopped sports car racing, just with rare breaks in between appearances in events like this. And I think it comes through in his voice. He just loves being here.
I love the loyalty that he has to Mike Shank and Mike Shank has to him. He's done this race 15 times before. He has never, ever driven for anyone else. I don't think there are many drivers who have got that much of an unbeaten run with the same team and a combination. It's just the nature of the business. People move around. Even a team moves manufacturer. But AJ and Mike, they've been together a long time.
Yeah, and he sort of hit almost the winning formula first time out, 2006, second on his debut here, and they've been there or thereabouts. But yeah, it's just when you go back through those notes, not just the winner here in 2012, but actually, you know, Ryan, you just touched straight on Formula Atlantic champion in 2003. I'm so sad. I can see he had 7 wins for Roost Sport that year. So, but you know, in our game, we have to, in fact, between the three of us, we do quite a lot of research, and it's fantastic. In fact, if you go on the IMSA website, there's a phenomenal amount of stats you can chew over, but it always pays off. But just that element of looking, Michael Shank Racing, Meyer Shank Racing. But it's not just that, it's also consistently there or thereabouts at the top end.
39 minutes to go in the session. Still very busy out on track. The only car that has yet to set a lap time is the 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin in the GTD class. That's the car that had the wheel departed earlier in the session and brought out the only red flag, if I'm not mistaken, in the session up to this point. I get the thumbs up in affirmation from Bruce. Thank you. And at that car, we heard they were working on getting it back out, but as of yet, Timing and Scoring says they have not turned a lap, and that is a bit of a concern because there was that discussion about needing to turn a certain number of laps in night practice to be eligible to race at night, and all right, in a race like Le Mans, maybe you can get away with one of your drivers not running at night. Tough to do here when such a large portion of this event is run in the nighttime. We've had a change down in the pit lane. Arjuna Kankapati is on headset, and he is caught up with Albert Costa.
It's always great to see the big smile on Albert's face, but he's rejoined the family at Conquest Racing after a year with Dragon Speed and GTD Pro. Albert, let's talk about last year very briefly, because what an effort from you, the entire Dragon Speed team, second in that GTD Pro Championship, but I know you would have wanted the championship itself.
I really wanted to win. We were on the... but yeah, luck was not in our side in the last day, but it's part of the game, no? To be honest, if you were asking me at the beginning of the year, second, third race, hey, are you gonna finish second at the end of the championship? I will say, where is the contract? I want to sign that. Because in that time we were quick, but we were not in the game for the championship. And at the end, look, we were almost winning, but yeah, we fight against the biggest manufacturer in the world with a very small, familiar, nice team that was Dragon Speed. And now, as you said, I'm back with my family, Conquest. We finished fourth in our first... I'm listening to my voice in the... It's so strange. But anyway, we are back to finish the job that we couldn't do in 2024. I know the team. I have a really good teammates. Man is improving a lot. He's learning a lot. So I think I have the tools to fight again for the championship in GTD.
We hope to see that, but with a slightly upgraded car compared to last year. We didn't get to see the Evo package debut in the November sanctioned test. What improvements have you felt from this car as you get ready to go racing this weekend?
To be honest, it's difficult to say what's... here it's difficult to say because the track conditions and Daytona is always special to drive. But I think they improve small things that they are better, especially in the front when washing in front when you are behind a car. So it's positive, let's say, no. I'm not a factory driver, so it was my first time testing the car here in Daytona, but I'm so happy with the job they made. Yeah, just happy, but let's see how it reacts in the race.
We'll see if we see that big smile on Sunday afternoon. Thanks, Albert.
I hope. Thank you so much, guys.
As Arjuna and Albert referenced, it is an updated Ferrari 296 for 2026. Features include an updated front and rear suspension, new gear ratio cascade, and redesigned bodywork. Maybe most notably, from a visual perspective, there's now 2 air intakes on the hood instead of a single one, as had been the case previously. And according to Ferrari, the focus there was to improve cooling to both the brakes as well as the cockpit. Cockpit temperature, maybe not the most important thing in a night session like this, but if the temperatures continue to climb over the course of this weekend, and we anticipate that they will, that does start to become a factor in a 24-hour race. And so many of these creature comfort type upgrades are done with the non-professional driver in mind, which is a really important consideration for the manufacturers when they go GT3 racing, which has a customer mindset really written into the rule set.
I think also one of the big creature comforts is definitely one part of it, but the performance that they've theoretically been able to find with it, 20% more airflow is going to the brakes on the car, which of course helps with the cooling. Now, what do you lose time doing in a 24-hour race? Changing brakes. So if it's a way that it might not save a brake change, but it might mean that the team can be a bit more flexible when they do the brake change. Of course, very heavy on braking here at Daytona. I mean, the GTD car going into turn 1, they're braking from 175 all the way down to 60 miles an hour. So it's a big, heavy stopping zone, and then there's another big stop into International Horseshoe, then same again for Western Horseshoe, then same again for turn 6, and then not so much for Le Mans Chicane, but there's, the brakes are getting a hard time around here. So now, issue for the Manti Grello, number 911, car that's iconic around the Nürburgring 24, and great to see it here racing in IMSA. I'm actually still trying to adjust my brain, going, wait a minute, we've got the Grello in IMSA. I mean, so cool, but it's taken me a little while to get used to it.
Yeah, I absolutely concur with that, but I when you walk down the paddock and you're walking past the garages, and, we have seen that many, many times, many, many years, particularly racing at the Nürburgring, but it's a livery that stands out anywhere, but most particularly at the break of day and at the end of the day, in that half light, that day glow, yellow and green, almost acidy colours just come screaming out at you. But it's a work of art, and it's, I love race liveries that get carried down through the years, and you really begin to identify them. And in fact, the IMSA Championship has always been very, very good for that. But, it's nice to have a European splash of colour here.
It did look like a few moments ago at first blush that maybe that car was off the pace, but it seems to be back at full song right now. In many respects, North America is the final frontier for Manthey. You think about where they have raced and inevitably won, because that's what Manthey does. Their experience here on this side of the pond is somewhat lacking compared to other places, and I thought it was a big vote of confidence in IMSA when we learned last year that the team targeted this as the next step for expansion, and they're here with a couple of cars, one in GTD Pro, that's the Grello car, but also with Ryan Hardwick in his now famous first form colors racing in GTD.
And what a year Ryan Hardwick had alongside Richard Leitz in the World Endurance Championship, and Ricardo Pera, who's making his IMSA debut this weekend as well, winning Le Mans and the World Championship in the same year. Very impressive indeed. I mean, Manthey, of course, now are part owned by Porsche. Porsche have a controlling stake in the company that they bought from the Rader brothers, who in turn took it on from Olaf Manthey. But when you look down their CV, I mean, 7 Nürburgring 24-hour overall wins, 6 class wins at Le Mans, 4 DTM titles, 2 drivers, 2 teams, 4 World Endurance Championship titles, 4 Super Cup titles in a row with the same driver, an Asian Le Mans Series Championship, a class win at Spa, but not a single IMSA win. So you're spot on, Ryan. It is the final frontier, and they'll desperately be wanting to get some of these iconic Grand Slam events on, because they're going to be here for the Michelin Endurance Cup with the Grello in GTD Pro. You know that if they don't come out this year without a Watkins Glen 6 hour or a Rolex 24 or a Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring or a Moto Petit Le Mans, they're going to go back to Moy's path. Absolutely furious.
You know how you can tell how seriously they're taking this? Look at the driver lineup. Klaus Bachler, Ricardo Feller, Thomas Priding, and Ayunshan Guven. That's the 4 drivers they've tabbed in their pro class car, and the GTD class car is just as strong. This is a serious effort to come and win this race and the remaining 4 on the Endurance Cup calendar.
Yeah, there's not a weak link in that team, but you talked of Richard Leitz, but I'm not sure who's done more races in a Porsche 911, Richard Leitz now or Klaus Bachler. Klaus has been so strong for years, doing more races per year than Richard, playing catch up. I mean, Richard is the absolute bellwether for that team, but that is a super, super strong Corvette. And there aren't a lot of global level drivers from Turkey, but I saw Ayhancan years ago. It was the FIA special GT event at the Sakhir circuit in Bahrain. I didn't know a great deal about him, and I went, right, okay, that's the target time, you're right on it, and he kept doing it. And in fact, he and Salih Yoluç won that for Team Turkey. So, but I mean, the hard lifting was done by Ayhancan. Very impressive.
An outstanding talent, only his 3rd race here on North American shores, but if you've been paying attention to sports cars globally, you know he is a name to conjure with. Let's head back down to the pits. Arjuna has caught up with a staple of the Turner Motorsport lineup, Robbie Foley.
And only 2 BMW M4s in the Rolex 24 field, 1 in GTD Pro, and the traditional Turner Motorsports in GTD, but with a slight twist, split livery. And I'm standing here with Robbie Foley, split liveried suit as well. Robbie, we were just talking about chances in the race. You qualified 3rd, though. How important is qualifying at this particular event?
It doesn't matter quite as much as other races, just because it's a 24-hour race. But yeah, the car was good in qualifying. Obviously, low fuel, new tires. It's a unique scenario. Now we're focused on the race, trying to make our long run, bring the car in the right window for the long run. You also have to set the car up at night and the day. It has to be good in all conditions. So that's the goal now.
Last year was a bit of a struggle to get to the front, but not a struggle in terms of consistency. Have you guys learned a bit more about the car that you can bring into 2026?
I think so. We had some strong races in terms of execution, but we definitely worked hard over the offseason just to try to extract a little bit more out of the car, and hopefully we can do that over 24 hours.
And in terms of these weather conditions, slightly warmer than last year, what's that going to mean in terms of surface conditions when we go racing this weekend?
difficult to say. I think the track always evolves here quite a bit through the weekend, and there's been some rains and different temperatures, so I think throughout the pit lane everybody's dealing with that. But again, the race ends at 1:40 on Sunday, and that's when your car has to be good.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks.
Qualified third, as Arjuna mentioned, 7th fastest in this session. Right now it's Jens Klingman, the BMW factory driver, who is behind the wheel. Consistency, the name of the game for Turner. They've kept 3 out of the 4 drivers that raced in this car in this event last year. The full season drivers remain the same. Pat Gallagher and Robbie Foley. Klingman again for the Rolex. The only change is Jake Walker has been swapped out for Francis Seldorf, who is not new to the team. He's run with them in GS and GSX. He's done lower level IMSA series with the team, so should be plug and play from that perspective.
Should be. Would you believe that no one in that lineup on that Turner 96 BMW has ever even been on the podium here in the Rolex 24?
That is stunning.
Yeah, so they're I'm sure all very determined to get that result.
From the GTP side of the BMW, from the GTD side of the BMW story to the GTP side, Neil Cole down in the pit lane now has caught up with one of the WRT drivers.
Yes, I am with Sheldon van der Linde. Sheldon, welcome to a full season of this. How are you enjoying sort of day one, really?
Yeah, it's been a difficult start, to be honest. Obviously, I did the championship here last year, so it's naturally the progression needs to be to win the championship this year. That's obviously our target as a team, but at the same time, the team is brand new, so we can't expect to hit the ground running from day one. It's going to take some time to get to grips with all the new people, new mechanics, engineers, and I think this will take time. I think we have to give them the time as well. It's only fair, so yeah, we'll see how it goes.
And you've got a great lineup of co-drivers. Your teammates are great. It's a very strong lineup. What's your hope for this weekend?
Yeah, I'm very happy with my lineup. I've got some very good teammates here by my side. Our hope is obviously to try and win the Rolex, but after qualifying, it looks a bit more difficult than we expected. We're 9/10 off, so at the Raw we didn't feel super comfortable. Here we kind of confirmed that in qualifying now. And we need to try and work and try a new concept on the car, because what we have at the moment is not rock solid, unfortunately, and we need to rethink what we can do for the race to have a good car and move to the front, hopefully.
Now, obviously, that's all happening around you. Everyone's working hard on that. Is it to do with the new chassis? What's at the root of the cause?
Difficult to say. I mean, if we had the answer, we'd probably fix it. So yeah, we're just trying different things. Obviously, we have the Evo kit for this year, which we're still quite new to. There's a lot of things that operate differently on this car. I don't think we've kind of found that sweet spot yet, but we have the whole year to do so. And obviously, we try and find it sooner or later, because it's not such a long season. Before we know it, it's already Petit Le Mans, and we need to be in the running for the championship by then.
Appreciate your time, Sheldon. Go well.
Thank you so much.
Good to hear from the South African. Great to have his presence in the championship for the full season this year, as Neil alluded to. And they talked about the upgrade to the BMW M Hybrid V8. It is the second Evo Joker that BMW has used. Aerodynamic changes, you could definitely tell, looking at the kidney grille on the car, much smaller than the previous bodywork. The focus, though, primarily of the aerodynamic changes is aimed at improving drivability and consistency, as well as working better in dirty air. That's been a common refrain from the GTP or LMDH manufacturers as they've rolled out these updates. They recognize the racing's going to be really close, and if you lose track position, you better have a way to get it back again.
Yeah, it also goes into the sort of realm of driver comfort. If your car is just not stable behind rivals, that's going to be quite difficult, particularly here on the banking, where you need to really get a good slipstream. And if you're not comfortable there, you're going to be maybe slightly offline. You'll lose a modicum of that slipstream. So, yes, but you've got to be comfortable in the night. That's for sure.
Sheldon, a former DTM champ, that was back in 2022. Has become a very valued member of the BMW driver lineup. For WRT, though, this is a big step for them, taking over the BMW contract from Rahal Letterman-Lanigan, which had held that BMW relationship in IMSA going back basically 2 decades. They've built a new operations headquarters in North Carolina. I'm told they're about at 80% of the staffing they'd like it to be. for the North American operation, and they're backfilling with some of their European staff here at the Rolex specifically to make this debut.
Yeah, no, I've watched that team for years and years and years, and they think about their racing. Every racing team thinks about their racing, but they've just got a span of former drivers. Not every driver will turn into someone who can drive a team forward, for all sorts of reasons, but they seem to have got some people who were racing 20, 30, even 40 years ago, and they don't get phased when the going gets tough. Yes, they've got something to sort on the car, but operationally, they will put it right in a sweet spot. But for them, actually, you know what? I think they'll revel in the chance to learn the new circuits that are new to them, because a lot of the circuits, you know this, Peter, you get in a championship and they happen to go back to the same circuits pretty much every year. And you want to get, they enjoy going to tracks like Bathurst to try and win. And don't forget, just a handful of years ago, Team WRT were convinced they were going to go with Audi into the World Endurance Championship, and no doubt this side of the pond, at the 11th hour they lost the deal, and it was a real about face. And the fact they then grabbed the deal with BMW, lots of other people were looking at that, they've made it work for them, but they'll chip away. Will they succeed? I don't know, but history just tells me they probably will.
Their CV says it all, really. I agree with you. Wherever they go, they will be successful. I think it'll take a while for the updates to bed in. They've made quite big aerodynamic changes. You look at the front of the car, it's actually similar to what the Cadillac has done, and of course they have similar underpinnings underneath. Of course, it's the Dallara chassis for both the BMW and the Cadillac, but there's more of a gap in the middle of the splitter, which allows more air underneath the car, which seems to be the kind of way that, and a lot of the new GTD, look at the new Ferrari GTD car, it's very similar. It's got this kind of rise in the middle of the splitter. It must be just trying to get that air underneath the car.
Arjun has been doing a little bit of sleuthing for us down, not just in the pit lane, but in the garage. Gradient Racing, was it that you said, or was it Myers-Riley? One of the Mustangs has made its way back to the garage, Arjun. What can you tell us?
It was the silver Gradient Racing 66, and catching up with the drivers very quickly, they said they're done for the day. No need to use any more of their Michelin tires, no need to risk the race car itself. And Ryan, I think that is a very good sign for the team, because when you have that sort of confidence to give up track time, it tells you that you've got a lot of belief in what you've already done here at Daytona.
I second that notion, and I think that belief is well placed based on some of the speeds we've seen from that car in testing and throughout this week as well. Trouble down at the Le Mans chicane. That is Paul di Resta in the fourth placed LMP2 entry with a little spin. That was at the entrance of the Le Mans chicane. He was able to get it righted and stay out of the way, and now is back up to speed. No harm, no foul. However, another car just skipped the chicane, and I believe that is the 8-car Tower Motorsports. It's Sebastian Alvarez, the Mexican driver, in the car right now. He went through the tire chicane that's set up in the middle of the actual chicane to make sure that you don't pick up any advantage from skipping that part of the racetrack. And there might be, as we understand, perhaps some contact between the two. Good news is both cars have been able to continue on, but the 8 now is down in the pits and is making its way down to the Tower Motorsports crew.
Yeah, and Paul di Resta in as well. And I fancied I saw a little bit of front corner damage on that one, so I think your theory of little contact, little collision is probably spot on.
For us here in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Center, we've got a replay of this, and there was contact at turn-in. Di Resta closing in at a rapid rate in the brake zone. There was GT traffic out in front of the two prototypes that might have caused Alvarez to slow more than Di Resta anticipated. He locked up the rears in avoidance and went for a spin. You were right, Bruce. It did look like a little front-to-rear contact, maybe some nose damage on the 22. They're also taking a look at the back of the 22, but the damage would be minor, easy to repair with a replacement of a little bit of body work as we get one more look at this.
I think you described it perfectly, to be quite honest, Ryan. Just pinching it. Of course, no anti-lock braking system in the LMP2 car, and even a driver of Paul di Resta's skill, multiple seasons in Formula 1, DTM champion, etc. It can get caught out, get checked up, and you know, these are the things that can happen. You can be leading the race, you can have the quickest car, it can all be going great, and then something just happens in the blink of an eye, and all of a sudden you're in the pits and your mechanics are pouring over the car.
Well, I'd add that there might have been rear contact into Paul as well. It wasn't just a lockup, as I thought initially, and that would explain why they're taking a look at not just the bodywork now, but also the right rear suspension. Arjuna, are you on the scene? Do you have a look at this?
I am, and in fact, they've actually just taken a piece of carbon fiber, which I assume might be part of the diffuser section of the car. I couldn't quite tell where they had picked that up from, but they are very gingerly inspecting that area of the car, and I think you are correct. A little bit of contact, and maybe now they're a bit of consternation as they try and figure out the extent of the damage and if they will be able to continue in this night practice.
Indications are it was the 19 Vanderster Racing Aston with Carl Bennett at the wheel. That car also is in the pit lane, so if Arjuna or Neil happen to be near that car, maybe you could see some telltale signs of contact at the front of that Vantage. Arjuna hustling in the background. I can hear him on his way to go check that out. We actually have a look at it here on our monitors, and gentlemen, it does look like there is some significant damage, maybe more than just bodywork. They're looking at the frame of that car.
Yeah, they are. The Vanderster Aston Martin front bodywork off there. But you see, basically what happened going into the Le Mans chicane is that Paul Di Resta came up the banking towards the top, right behind the number 19. Sorry, in front of the number 19, but behind another prototype. And it was front and back, and then he got tipped round sideways. And certainly the Aston Martin was high up there, but he simply ran out of space to play, because when a car in front is suddenly going sideways, and it really was a rough old ride sideways for probably a good second or so. The United Autosports Oreca was at 90 degrees to where it should have been in terms of travel, and that isn't good for any car. That strain going, you know, sideways across a car wasn't hitting anything, but was certainly being a lot of friction coming from the tarmac there.
It did appear to slide up and over the apex curbing as well, which is fairly extreme. Inside of the corner curbing, there are those almost pyramidal shaped curbs that are there to prevent you from cutting the corner. Those are new as of last year, since they paved over all the grass on the backstretch and had to find a way to dissuade drivers from taking advantage of all that added paved area. And the downside is that can cause some damage to the car if you hit it wrong or slide over it, maybe damage the under tray. Arjuna does confirm what we thought we saw from up here, that the Vanderster car does have some damage. So although we're not quite to the end of this session yet, just over 15 minutes still to go, we've avoided major incidents. However, there have been incidents that certainly have set some teams back. And this most recent one, 3 teams involved, 2 out of LMP2 and 1 from GTD.
I think you could probably call that just a racing incident, really, an unfortunate one. And also for Paul Di Resta in that LMP2 car, the vision in one of these cars is not what you get in a regular road car, to say the least. You are really quite tightly packed in one of those LMP2 machines. So the peripheral vision that you have, that's where someone of Paul's experience is really important, but to know where to position yourself. But sometimes, in that particularly going into Le Mans chicane, it's a very fast entry, short braking zone, and if someone checks up, it can become a mess quite quickly. So yeah, better that happened in night practice, but that's something that can easily happen in the race.
Arjuna, do you have eyes on the Vanderster car?
I've hopped over the pit wall to take a closer look, and it's the left front that is showing the battle scars. The bodywork is significantly scarred, but maybe more significantly, Ryan, there's a bit of liquid on the pit box area that maybe suggests to me some radiator damage as well. And so the word from the team is this is significant damage, and hopefully they'll be able to get it worked on pretty quickly, and it's not as bad as they're initially fearing.
Looks like that car is being pushed the wrong way down the pit lane, making its way toward the garages. That is one of the unique quirks of this circuit. If you are pitted towards pit out, there are some advantages in that in terms of your pit stops and having an easy egress from the pit lane. But if something is to go wrong, it's a long old trudge down the pit lane to get to the garages themselves. And that's why the pit stalls that surround the cutout back to the garages, the WeatherTech garages, those are prime pieces of real estate if you can get a hold of them. We've seen teams use that to their advantage, minimize damage, stay in the race, and then ultimately come back for a big result. This race is dotted with examples of that through its history.
Yeah, and you'd really feel for the teams. Early hours of the morning, they've got through the night, and they're by pit exit, and they've got to push a broken car that really long way. With mechanics who probably 20 minutes earlier were asleep. Not one, but 2 cars being pushed back through the gap in the pit wall back towards the paddock. So certainly the Van der Stor Aston Martin, and I think another car was coming back into the pit lane. It just had to be moved away, or are they just straightening it up?
These are the 2 cars that were in that incident, the 22 United LMP2 and the Van der Stor Aston. It's a little bit awkward, isn't it? It's the mechanics that got to push them back. They're all looking at each other going, long night for us, I guess.
Well, let's counter that with some good news. The Aston Martin number 21, that Dudu Barrichello hadn't got his night laps in. Well, he's come out, he's been on the circuit, he's back in the pit lane. I don't know how many laps he needs to do. Did he say he had to do 3 more? I can't remember. But anyhow, that ought to be able to go running. But the clock is not his friend. We're in the final, well, any moment now, be the final dozen minutes of this 90-minute practice session.
He's done 6 laps. So that
he'd done 5 beforehand, though.
Yeah, okay. Because they have a rapid car.
Yeah.
That Aston Martin is looking really, really strong right now. When you compare the GTD Pro times to the GTD times in qualifying, Zachary Robichon's time, remember he's a silver graded driver, was significantly quicker than a lot of the other cars with full platinum drivers in them. So clearly the Aston Martin has got a very, very strong performance going into race day.
Kenton Cook on a quick in and out lap for Traccia Competizione. 12 minutes to go in the session. Just went out from the pits and immediately comes straight back in again. That car currently 6th fastest on timing and scoring. Number 023 Ferrari 296 GT3 Evo. The engine note you're listening to on board with car 93 Meyer Shank Racing. Alex Palou, the reigning IndyCar and Indy 500 champion. What a star he has blossomed into in a short amount of time, and seemingly with a long career out in front of him, now getting increased opportunities to go sports car racing. He has proven to be a quick study when given the chance, whether it's in a GT car, although he did have a little experience in GTs before coming to IndyCar racing back in Super GT, but now these prototypes as well. He just seems like one of those drivers that adapts quickly and is a perfect fit for one of these endurance lineups. Gets in, does his job, doesn't make a fuss. Pretty much plug and play.
He's quite the talent. I mean, he totally dominated the 2025 IndyCar season. Nobody could really touch him.
You're telling me.
I mean,
we were running out of things to talk about.
I bet you were. I mean, and to win the 500 and the championship in the same year is a really special combination. But yet to score his first IMSA win, so that's one that he wants to add on to his CV. But it seems like the Acuras are strong in GTP, both the number 60 and the 93. It's a great article in Race Car Engineering a couple of issues ago about the engine in the Acura and how it's the only bespoke engine that's been built for this category, whereas all the other manufacturers, have taken an existing power plant and then developed it. But Acura were quoted in that article as saying everyone talks about it being an IndyCar engine that was repurposed, but actually it was built as a sports car engine, but it was in the right dimensions that it could be used in IndyCar in the future if need be.
And it ended up, those IndyCar engine regulations got kicked down the road. Now it looks like they've been renewed once again, and there is some thought that although it is a slightly different engine, I mean, you're going to design an engine to do different things for endurance racing than you would to run a maximum of 500 miles in an IndyCar, but there is quite a bit of architectural crossover if that is ultimately the route that IndyCar likes to go with their engine formula moving forward. And that could very well be to Acura and Honda's advantage. That was a very tight moment, 3 classes overlapping down at the apex of the International Horseshoe, and somehow everyone emerged out on the other side. Just how is a mystery to me, but Alex Palou, cool as a cucumber, continues on and now trying to work his way through some more traffic.
That was a Sally Yolich Corvette sandwich there going in. With the Sally did very well not to panic there. Stayed in the middle with LMP2 on the outside of the 99 Spike, the Dragon machine driven by Dane Cameron at the moment, and then Palou on the other side. And like you say, Ryan, very lucky that they all got through. But coming back to that power plant in the Acura. It is amazing the development they did on that engine and how light it is. They actually, to get up to the minimum weight for the engine and the rules, 180 kilos the GTP engine needs to be, they actually had to ballast it up because they used so much carbon in the construction of everything around it that they actually had to ballast it up to get to the minimum weight.
Chance to head back down to the pits with just under 8 minutes to go in the session. Madison Snow in an Aston this year, Arjuna. Let's hear from him now.
I'm standing here with Madison Snow as a lot of cars are heading back to the garage area, but Madison, big change for you this year. New manufacturer, new team, but back here at the Rolex 24. How's this Thursday practice been going for you and the team?
I mean, I gotta say, I do love night practice. I'll be definitely a lot happier once I hop in the race, and driving around this place at nighttime is always really special.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Madison with places to be. Two-time champion in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship GTD class back in 2018 and again in 2023. Spent the last handful of years on the BMW rolls. That relationship has come to an end and gets this chance now to join Magnus Racing. Fun-loving team. Utah roots to that team, and of course Madison as well. Proud native of Utah himself.
Yeah, and I don't know, whenever I just hear Magnus Racing, it just makes me smile, because I just know the way they go racing is about fun, and the fact that the fifth team member always seems to be John Cleese of Monty Python, with their sense of humour. You know, there's no reason why you shouldn't make people laugh, smile and make them feel good about, and feel invested in the team. I think that's something too, because otherwise, if you're new to this and you look down, all the teams look attractive, but a little hook that just chives with your personal humour or whatever, that's great.
I was talking with the team earlier today and asked, how's it going? It looks like the car must be fast. They had the fastest lap time in the Roar before the 24. Spencer Papelli's at that time. Talking to team strategist Sean Heckman, and Sean said, "Did you know when he set that time?" I said, "No. It was the very first flying lap of the Roar, and no one went faster."
Does that give you an idea into the performance of the Aston Martin as well? The fact that it's, and after that you're thinking, maybe was that we show our hand maybe a little bit too much there, maybe. Or perhaps
they took him back into the garage and gave him a sound strapping.
Yes. Calm down.
It's part of the game in modern sports car racing, it must be said. Let's hear from Julian Andlauer now, who is with Neil Cole.
Yes, I've just dragged Julian Andlauer out of his debrief. Can you tell us a little bit of what you're talking about in your debrief, please?
So it's it's the first time for me back in the car since pretty much yesterday. So I had to see what jump we made on the progress we made on the car since yesterday, and also the next session is very important for us. So it's gonna be the last proper one to, let's say, change the things on the car, because tomorrow is just like, I would say, I did the last check before going for the race. So yeah, we've run through our testing program, and it felt pretty good, I have to say. Now it's a bit fresh, so we tried different tires, and it feels like we've made some good progress. But yeah, competition is really high as well. We can clearly see that everyone has more pace compared to the Roar, and
And do you feel there's pressure on you, because you could easily do something very special this weekend?
Well, I mean, we have a great crew, so everyone is looking at what he needs to look at, and I have to say we're pretty efficient. Like, everyone has his job, and I just give my feedback. We look at what options do we have, and then we just take the best decision. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, we go somewhere else. And so far, I feel like we've done a good job, so let's finish it properly to go to the race with confidence.
And finally, a word about your new young teammate who's in the car, Lauren. How's he doing? Is he up to speed?
Of course, I mean, Lauren and the speed is not something to be worried about, and he knows the IMSA Championship very, very well. So yeah, I think it's a very good strength to in the lineup with us. I think he brings a a good pace, good speed, and he knows what he has to do. It's exactly the same as us. Is to be fast, keep the car on track, and be in a good position for the end of the race. And no, it's good. We worked already together in Bahrain last year, and it went very well. So looking forward to start the race all together.
Merci, Julien. Merci.
Thank you.
Car is second quickest in this session. It's Lauren Heinrich behind the wheel, just 56 thousandths of a second off the quickest with 3.5 minutes to go. Some significant tech inspection related news, gentlemen. It's with great regret I passed this along, but in the GTP class, car 31, the car that qualified on pole, will be moved to the rear of the class. Car's friction area at the rear skid block was beyond permitted tolerance. Also, in GTD Pro, the number 1 car, that's Paul Miller Racing's BMW, also moved to the rear in the class. That car was found to have camber in excess of the permitted limit. So 2 significant changes to the starting grid after qualifying. All other cars, according to IMSA, found to be in compliance. Let's head back down to the pits for one more interview with just under 3 minutes to go. Arjuna, who have you found?
I found our defending GTD champions, and I'm here with Russell Ward at Windward Racing. And Russell, let's start with the fact that there's not just one, there's 2 Windward Racing teams. You've brought over some of the crew from Europe in a GTD Pro entry. Has that put any more workload on you, or is the team being able to take that workload off your plate?
No, not really. I mean, we've got such a great group of guys, and, it's a pleasure to be able to run another car. That's what we built this new facility for, to be able to run an additional car, come here and bring 3 Mercedes race cars to Daytona. And so far, so good. Everything seems to be going smooth. The car's fast, so, I'm all smiles.
And qualifying went pretty well, as much as we know that's not the be-all and end-all. Tires. Bit of a change to these Michelin tires for GTD. How have you been adapting to that change?
Yeah, look, I mean, occasionally you come out with a new tire and maybe you take a step backwards. So, it's definitely not as nice as the tires last year. And, that's just my personal opinion. I mean, but, we're dealing with it, and it seems like everybody's dealing with it out there. When we were around other cars, we seem pretty quick. So, I mean, all good over here.
Thanks, Russell. Best of luck this weekend.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good stuff, Arjuna. Good to hear from the 2-time and defending class champion in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship GTD class. Just over a minute to go, guys. You were gobsmacked as I was passing along the news of those tech infractions. Start with you, Bruce. Takeaways?
Well, I mean, it's never confirmed until you've cleared tech, unfortunately. But, here we are. Fastest in qualifying, that number 31 Cadillac, fastest in this session as well. So super, super strong. However, on the back foot, 24 hours lie ahead.
These rules are there for very good reason. I mean, coming on the camber to start with for the number 1 Paul Miller BMW and GTD Pro, I mean, Michelin hand out a set of recommendations, but also a set of regulations as well of what the operating parameters of the tyre are. They're to do with pressure and all sorts, but they cannot have negative camber beyond -3 degrees. That is prohibited, so they will have been beyond that. And in terms of the 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac, I mean, the skid block is something that we saw last year in the LMP2. Tower Motorsport won the race on the road and then failed post-race tech with the skid block being worn down. Now, why is that? These cars, the prototypes, are so sensitive to ride height. The way that the aerodynamics work, the ride height is so key. And, if you can get it close to the ground, obviously that makes a big, big difference. But the thing is the fact that it was low after qualifying after 12 minutes of running maybe. So in the race, they're going to have maybe quite a different car than what they ran in qualifying, because they'll have to run it higher, won't they?
Checkered flag is out. It is the 31 Whelen Engineering Action Express car that ends the session with the quickest time. I don't know if they bothered to tell Connor Zilich the news while he was in the car. Chances are they probably waited till after to pass that along. Meanwhile, a lot of fire retardant smoke, it would appear, down in the pit lane. This is the 13 Autosport car, if I'm not mistaken, still run by AWA. Fire in the back of that Chevy Corvette. Matt Bell is the one who brought that car to the pit lane at the end of the session. And that looks like a fairly significant burst of flame that's been dealt with. It then came back to life momentarily. It has subsequently been extinguished once again, and it appears that they've gotten to the bottom of that, but you have to hope there's not too much damage to anything related to the internals of that car. What had been a really clean run up to this point for the team becomes potentially that much more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, they actually, when he brought it into the pits, he was ranked 4th in GTD. He's just lost the position. Someone else has gone a little bit faster. But yeah, it could have been a quiet night for the mechanics. It may be not quite as they dream. I mean, imagine that. You got to the final minute, the checkered flag is about to be proffered, and then suddenly in the pits, you've got far coming out, and it still appears to be trying to get itself back alight. A lot of extinguishment on there, on top of a lot of steam coming out. But that bit about have they got much to clean? They've got a lot more now, unfortunately.
It sounds like there's a leak because the car will still be really hot, and they think they've got it, and then all of a sudden it combusts again. So there must be some sort of leak, either oil or fuel, something like that.
There are 3 people down there, 2 crew members and 1 firefighter with fire extinguishers. I think a 4th just appeared, so it's pretty well in order. Everyone taking a look down inside of that engine compartment of the C8 Corvette, and more fire retardant material is being sprayed inside of that compartment. All of this has happened since this session went checkered, so let's run through the top 5 in each of the classes. It is the erstwhile pole-sitting car, no longer after the tech infraction. Car 31, Action Express Racing, Whelen Engineering, Connor Zilich behind the wheel at the end of the session. They do end up fastest in this. Lauren Heinrich, AJ Allmendinger, Jordan Taylor, and Rene Rast, the top 5 in the GTP class for Porsche, Acura, Cadillac, and BMW, respectively. In LMP2, Tom Dillman was quickest, ahead of Dylan Murray. Then Dane Cameron and Matthias Besch, with Paul DeResta for United Autosports completing the top 5. The GTD classes, GTD Pro, fastest overall GT time in the session. Alexander Sims in the number 3 Chevy Corvette has the honors. Sister car, second fastest in class. Then it's the Triarci, excuse me, that's not right, but it is the 033 Ferrari 296, Riccardo Agostini in 3rd, Ayan Changuven for Manthai in 4th, and Jules Gounon in the 69 in 5th. Then to the GTD, top 5 there in this final session of the day. Wayne Taylor Racing with their Lamborghini, quickest in the class, ahead of the 34, Lorenzo Petresi at the wheel late in the session. Then it's Jensen Altsman for Gradient Racing in their Mustang. 4th to the 13 Autosport car, the Chevy Corvette that had the fire in the pit lane. And finally, Scott Andrews, Lone Star Racing, 5th fastest time in the session. That's it for us here from the Ford Racing Global broadcast booth, here at Daytona International Speedway. Busy day out at the racetrack, and so much to look forward to tomorrow, including the BMW M Endurance Challenge, first race of the season for Michelin Pilot Challenge, and a whole lot more. For our entire RSL team and IMSA Radio team, thank you so much for tuning in. So long from Daytona International Speedway. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Ryan. Hopefully we can catch up with each other when we get to London for the Formula E. So, that is the end of today's action, the opening day of the Rolex 24. We've had 2 practice sessions and a qualifying. Tomorrow, it's going to be another practice session before we go racing on Saturday. You can join us live here on JB Motorsports for all of the action. We'll see you tomorrow for more of practice. Take care. Bye-bye.